Welcome back in studio. I'd be willing to bet that the odds are you know someone, could be someone very close to you, who has gone through breast cancer. Myself, three women in my family have gone through it, all received treatments and such. And so it's unfortunately it's more common than we'd like to think today. But we're going to talk right now about a dangerous drug that has been used for breast cancer patients and some problems that have arisen from that, leading to legal claims of product liability. And Whitney Butcher in studio with us now, one of the attorneys at the Whitley law firm. Whitney, tell us about this drug called Taxotere and what's going on.
Sure. So Taxotere is a chemotherapy medication. It's primarily used to treat breast cancer. There are a couple of other types of cancers that it's been treating more recently, but basically it is effective at treating and curing breast cancer because the taxane molecule that's in the drug stops cell division, stops the growth, basically. The problem is it leaves too many women, too high of a percentage of patients with permanent alopecia or permanent hair loss. So breast cancer is one of the biggest killers of all the cancers, kind of year in and year out. And it's the Susan Komen, month for breast cancer awareness. Everyone knows someone affected by it. So researchers in the 90s discovered the taxane molecule from trees in the Pacific Northwest. So it's an organic substance, pretty interesting, and it's extremely effective at curing specifically breast cancer. So Sanofi Aventis is the company that manufactured Taxotere. They took the taxane molecule, came up with Taxotere, and started marketing it and selling it in the mid-1990s. There's another drug made from the same taxane molecule called Taxol, manufactured by another company, used to treat breast cancer. Both Taxotere and Taxol are almost identically as effective at treating breast cancer. The problem is Taxol doesn't have the negative side effect of permanent hair loss, and Taxotere does. So, one of the things that a lot of folks ask about, well, men deal with baldness and hair loss. Why is this such a big deal? You beat breast cancer. What's the big deal? Well, I think that the real issue is these women feel like they didn't have a choice, and there was a reasonable alternative that had no permanent hair loss. So when you, for anyone who has a cancer survivor in their family, losing your hair with chemo is part of the process. But then when you beat it growing back, and maybe the texture being a little bit different, or it being just how you remembered it, that's part of the healing. So if your hair doesn't grow back, you're left with a constant reminder of something that almost killed you, of a horrible experience in your life. And so it's really very, very terrible for a lot of women.
Well, I would have think that it would, you talked about that, the fact that you've beaten the cancer, but your hair doesn't come back. It's part of the healing process. I can tell you firsthand from the women in my family that have gone through this, and my spouse went through this, and we had a big party where she was losing her hair and it was all falling out, and we shaved her head and we had this big party. But thank the Lord, after she got through with all the treatments and everything, her hair came back. And it's fine now. It came back really curly, but her hair came back.
Absolutely.
And it was part of her healing process was the fact that I've got a full head of hair again. And so I know what you're talking about. For women, it's huge.
Absolutely. And so these cases, there's more than 2,000. They're all consolidated in the multi-district litigation, which we talked about before, but it's individual lawsuits filed in front of one federal court judge, and here that's in Louisiana. So as part of those cases being filed, the women have to present proof of their hair loss. So they send us pictures from before they ever got cancer and then what they look like now without their wig on or without the permanent extensions that are in place. I spoke with one younger mother. She's in her early 40s now. She sent me this beautiful family portrait. She had long shoulder length, bright blonde hair. She looked just a beautiful, vibrant woman. And then her pictures after receiving Taxotere, she's almost completely bald. There are a few little patches of hair, and she just looks completely sunken.
Ben, when you talk about product liability, we're not talking about lawsuits aimed at the doctors, the physicians, the nurses. These are pharmaceutical companies that where the liability reigns, right?
That's right. And and just listening here, I always learn a lot from Whitney, and just learning about that alternative use. I mean, that angers me that there was an option, the same effectiveness, but yet not the same side effects. So these things are, pharmaceutical companies are critical to life-saving medicine. But a lot of times these business decisions get made about profits over people, that it'll drive you crazy, and you see it on a lot of times on the news magazine channels when they'll do these investigating reporting, and they'll find out that there's some memo where they determined that they could make this many $1 billion with the drug. They may have to pay out, 800 million in lawsuits.
Okay.
But the profit margin is still worth doing it. I mean, it's just anyway. So that's
maddening.
It is maddening, and these cases are against them, the companies that design the drug, that manufacture the drug, and then put it out on the marketplace. These are not medical malpractice lawsuits.
Right.
So the doctors in these cases are very important. Sometimes they're important witnesses, and the doctor's medical records. So if you're out there, if it's you or a loved one or someone it's what Whitney is going to be able to offer you is a free, confidential conversation, and I think that's important for a lot of people. And we handle these cases all over the state, sometimes all over the country.
Yeah.
And so it's important that you feel like you've got a personal connection with the lawyer, because these are intimate issues that you're dealing with.
Yeah, and I think, no offense against us being men, but I think a woman that's going through this would like to have a woman to consult with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's helped a lot. They'll come into the office and we'll go into a conference room and they can be completely frank and honest. I mean, the first woman I met with, she looked like she had a full head of hair, and then she took her wig off, and I had to ask if I could take pictures of her head, and we talked about how awful it was, and she cried about how unconfident she is and how her relationship has suffered. So
her quality of life has totally changed.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a constant reminder that you had cancer. An important thing, Drew, there may be some time limitations that apply to these cases.
Oh, okay.
Taxotere, it was used late 90s, early 2000s. It's since gone generic. So a lot of the clients that we're meeting with were finished with the drug in 2005, 2006. So it's very important that if they think they have a Taxotere lawsuit, to contact someone sooner rather than later.
And the best way to contact the Whitley Law Firm is at any time. You can call that 800 number that's on your screen. You can go to whitleylawfirm.com as well. Go to the website. If you'd rather send an email, you can do that just by going to the website and emailing the Whitley Law Firm, and one of the attorneys will be getting back to you in a timely fashion. And so once again, we do have operators standing by for the next few seconds that while we're doing the program. 1-800-785-5000, that's the number to call. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Attorneys on Call. We certainly hope that you learned something from the program. That's our goal here, and we'll see you next time right here.